to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
Oh my gosh. I like this time of year weather-wise.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's comfortable. The sun is shining. We got way more sunshine than we do darkness. It always makes me feel happy that the temperatures are much nicer. I mean, we're coming out of the rainy season.
Yeah, I think it's great.
And yet here we are inside. I don't know, maybe we ought to. I wonder what it'd be like. Well, I guess it'd be kind of hard. It'd be very breezy.
Yes, I'm sure that it would.
Make it kind of tough. Oh, well, the school year is nearly over.
Yes, it is.
And it's that time of year where I find a mix of happiness and sadness all at the same time.
Sure.
And I've been talking with a lot of the kids, and most of them are pretty excited. I'm graduating, I'm out of here, I'm off to college.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also noticed this year more than others how a lot of kids are feeling a little more nervous about what comes next.
Okay. That's understandable.
And just exactly. I mean, we got kids that are going off to work. We got kids that are going to join the military. We got kids that are going off to college. Some, local universities, some far away. Heck, I've got a couple going internationally.
Nice.
And it's kind of like, well, I'm excited and they're excited, but again, they're also a little bit feeling of nervous. And it got me thinking, what is the right amount of nervous before it becomes too much?
I don't know. I really have no idea. It's, nervousness, I guess, is some people are more nervous than others.
Okay, fair point.
So I guess it just depends on the person.
Okay, I get that. Well, it got me thinking about, okay, when nervousness maybe gets a little too much, then are you now feeling insecure?
That's a good question.
Because I think it's okay to have a healthy dose of insecurity. I mean, rephrase that. When I'm doing certain things, teaching a new lesson, meeting kids in the classroom at the beginning of the school year, I'm a little excited. I'm a little nervous because you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
And so you feel a little nervousness, a little insecurity of, man, am I going to be able to do this year what I've done all the other years?
Sure.
Is this year going to be good? Is this year going to be average? Is it going to be bad? What are you going to get?
Okay.
And so I think a little nervousness can be good. When I've done some of my presentations, when I've done public speaking events and things like that at conferences, I'm a little nervous.
Okay.
And I'm going, gee, can I do this? Can I do this? And I feel a little insecure. But once I get going, then the old habits and the old patterns kick in, and ta-da, it goes okay.
I think some nervousness comes from, you want to do a good job at whatever it is you're doing, and you're not necessarily sure if the job is going to be good enough.
Okay.
And so I could see being nervous about new things that you're doing. Right. I mean, I've done professional developments for teachers. You get a little bit nervous sometimes. You hope that it goes well. You hope that it achieves what you want it to do, right?
Sure.
But you might be a little bit nervous working up to that.
So that got me, though, thinking, okay, when it goes too far, when that nervousness leads to insecurity, which leads to paralyzing behaviors. And so I thought maybe we could kind of explore that a little bit.
Sure.
Now, when I looked up to the APA, and I was trying to figure out, okay, how would they define or describe insecurity? And again, this insecurity that becomes a paralyzing behavior. Mm-hmm. And they identified it as a feeling of inadequacy and an inability to cope. And
that makes sense.
It did to me, because there have been plenty of times in my life where I have felt insecure.
Okay.
And it has indeed stopped me from doing things, because I was thinking, well, I can't do that. I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was one of the things that led me to first maybe to be a professional educator, to be a teacher.
Right.
And then my opinions and thoughts and working with kids over the years is help them to not be like me, to not fall into that trap of insecurities, because I grew up a tall, skinny, uncoordinated kid. And I could have played basketball, but, well, I didn't feel that I was good enough.
Sure.
So I never played.
And that's odd. You love basketball.
You're
do. Always talking about basketball.
Oh.
You went to a basketball school.
Yes. And went to my first game at age 5. And I love it. But I was feeling inadequate. And I was afraid to try. And so, I kept looking into, well, what are some things that might cause you to feel insecure? Am I the only one that feels certain ways?
Oh, of course not, right? There's lots of reasons that somebody might feel insecure. I mean, there's lots of things that people try to do. And especially if you're doing it the first time, right? You might feel very insecure about those things. I mean, some of that might even lead to some anxiety about it. And, I can think of things. I mean, I was not a PE kid. I remember being in school, and, to some extent I was a little bit bullied. And then, you go to PE and you've got to like play these games, and you got to do teamwork. And I was afraid of that, right? I was really insecure about taking on those roles, and am I going to do well, or am I just going to get picked on for it, And so I felt that in the past. I've had fears of heights. I mean, feel insecure about things like that. I can see feeling insecure as a senior. I mean, we both teach seniors, and they going out into the world. And I've talked to some, and some of them are like, I've been ready since day one of senior year to get out of here. And others have said, I'm just not ready.
Well,
and so there's a lot of insecurity there.
Yes. And when you get insecurity to the point that it stops you,
yes,
I think that's where it's now gone from a healthy to an unhealthy level. And so it kind of began to think and explore why. Why would you feel insecure?
Okay.
And some of it comes from a lack of support at home.
Okay.
Now, I don't know that I got a lot of support at home. My mom and dad were very supportive.
Okay.
And we'll try it if you want. But it wasn't their fault I didn't try basketball. I was just intimidated by it.
Right.
Others could be being judged in childhood on certain achievements or lack of achievements. I was like you. I was never good in sports at school. I was usually picked last. Remember when you had to climb the ropes in gym class?
Oh, see, I actually love that.
Really?
But that's individual, right?
Oh, see, I could never.
Everybody was watching me, but I would go all the way to the top.
Could you? I couldn't go more than a few feet off the ground.
Yeah, I'd get all the way to the top. That was there's certain things that I felt like are a challenge, and I'm going to overcome it. And then there's other things that I would just stop in my tracks and not do.
Okay.
Because I was intimidated by that.
Okay. Well, because some of the stuff I came up with, was having traumatic events at home.
Sure.
And I can see that. Things like having, serious bouts of anxiety or depression can get you into that polar or paralyzing. I don't know why I keep saying polarizing, but the paralyzing fear of doing something. Part of something else I came up with that ties into lack of support at home can also be you're not having secure attachments with family, with friends, with parents, living with all kinds of social anxiety problems. And some of it can also be from society itself. The messages about how you should be, how you should act, how you should look. And so I thought that was really, really interesting. And so when I continued to dig into this, some signs of insecurity a lot of times can manifest itself in low self-esteem. And I have to say, when I was growing up as a kid, tall, skinny, uncoordinated, and very unathletic, I had low self-esteem about myself.
Sure.
I mean, I was good in school, but it made it hard for me to talk to girls, to make a lot of friends unless they were gawky and geeky like I was. And so it made me very self-conscious. And there were many times I was happy to be by myself.
Yeah.
And so these are the kinds of things that they were saying that are signs of insecurity. The idea that you're never satisfied with what you do. You put a lot of perfectionistic ideas on what you do, that everything has to be, just so.
Sure.
And so I thought that was kind of interesting as I'm thinking about our kids. And a lot of them, well, they would say, well, I'm just going to the local community college. And I'm going, no, you're not just going. You're going to college.
Right.
You may not be traveling far away, and you may be able to live at home and commute and go to your classes, but you're still going to college.
Not to mention save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, crying out loud, they're 50 to 75% cheaper than going to the big schools and smaller class sizes and all kinds of benefits. All right. But I always worry, are these kids going there because they didn't try to go somewhere else? Were they afraid to go somewhere else? I mean, yes, the economic issues, the proximity to home, maybe there's family issues. I mean, there could be 100 different reasons why they are staying close to home. But is one of them a fear factor?
I mean, probably. No different than moving out on your own, right? I mean, that would be a fear for many.
Okay.
I mean, being on your own. Some of these, some seniors, have expressed in the past to me that they're just afraid of what comes that day after, right?
Sure.
Like some of their parents expect them to be on their own, and they've never had to do that. So how, what do they do with that? There's some insecurity and anxiety associated with that. So, yeah, I mean, I think that those are real things that, people, especially young people, would have trouble with. It's funny, you look back on a lot of things in your life when you reach the age that we are.
Yeah.
And you think about those things that you had anxiety about or that you were insecure about. And they're so insignificant, really, right, in light of everything. But when you're in it at the time, it's everything. And that's why it stops you in your tracks, I think.
Thank you. And
you can't get beyond it.
I read a number of journal articles on how to help kids deal with big emotions. And I would argue that this fear, this unknown, hey, I've been going to school and living with mom and dad, since the very beginning. 13 years of education, and maybe even more if you did preschool and all that kind of stuff. But you've been going to school for so long, that's always been your life. And now the idea is you get to decide. Life is what you decide it's going to be.
Right.
And I could see where that would be a little scary and intimidating for young people in particular.
Absolutely.
And I worry about what happens when it becomes a pattern of behavior that you start not doing things because of this fear, because of this insecurity, and it leads into, well, you don't try out for, that job. And so you settle for something less.
Right.
You don't finish college or VOTEC, or you don't get that training to get the good job because, well, what if I'm not good at it? I think of the movie Back to the Future, where Marty McFly's dad is constantly saying, well, what if I can't do it? What if I'm not good enough?
Right.
What if I get rejected?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, when you're in that kind of position, that insecurity keeps you from achieving what you can achieve.
Yeah. But I don't think that's unnatural, right? Like we all have, I think every human has some level of fear of failure.
Okay.
Nobody is growing up, and moving through high school and thinking, boy, I just can't wait to, go fail today.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. But as teachers, we know that failure leads to learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that's not the way society looks at things necessarily. They want you to, everybody's supposed to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner you achieve, the better life is, right? So it's just that idea that you're supposed to fail to some extent in order to be able to achieve and overcome and do new things and be successful is foreign to our minds. Like, I don't think we think about that. I think we're just afraid of it.
And that's too bad. Because I think that you have to try, you have to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that some of my best successes have come from my failures.
Mm-hmm.
And I know more about how to be a better husband.
Sure.
Because of my failed first marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to dig a little deeper and explore into, well, okay, if you're feeling this paralyzing fear of trying something,
mm-hmm.
This idea of strong insecurity, what can you do about it? And so I found some different suggestions, and as I went through them, I go, wow, okay, I ultimately did some of these.
Okay.
Not knowing exactly what I was doing, but it helped give me the strength and courage to try.
Okay.
So one of the things that I came up with was the idea of how to embrace your differences. And when you can't deal, trying to find that peace of mind that comes with you're going, well, I don't know if I can do this. Well, I don't want to fail because of what you're saying. Society does expect this. So the idea of finding peace of mind to help you embrace that you're going to try a different way of doing something doesn't make it wrong.
Okay.
Just because everybody else, or just because it's not commonly done, it doesn't make it wrong. It's just your way of doing it. So give it a try.
Yeah.
I now experiment with cooking a lot, and I'm more than happy to try something.
Sure.
So it's we all have our quirks,
mm-hmm.
our idiosyncrasies, the things that make us us.
Yeah.
And learning how to kind of understand that that's okay to be you
mm-hmm.
can help you have the strength and courage. And
I saw a great meme, and I'm not very good at describing what the meme looks like necessarily. But
okay.
I can repeat what it said. But it had a person doing something very strange with a couple of chairs, and I honestly don't know what they were doing. But that was kind of the point of the meme, was that it can't be wrong if nobody knows what you're doing. Right. So
okay, fair enough.
And people do all kinds of new things, and that's how we end up with new ideas and new technologies and new all kinds of new stuff. And it takes people to step out and try things that are different, right?
Mm-hmm.
For us to come to these things. So that should be celebrated, that we would try to do something different.
Yes, taking new risks, trying new things. You don't know what it can lead to, but nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right.
So
I think it goes along with I don't know what you've found, but it just makes me think of taking on your fears, right? Like hitting them head on. So whatever that insecurity is, whatever that anxiety is, whatever that fear is, right? Like just going after that. I for a long time had a fear of heights.
Mm-hmm.
And a volunteer firefighter for a while.
Oh my!
And you got to use ladders.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in order to get over my fear of heights, I put up the ladder truck ladder, 100 feet straight up in the air, and climbed it all the way to the top.
Wow!
That was my way to get over a fear of heights.
You get to the top and you didn't fall.
Didn't fall. Well, you have equipment to make sure that doesn't happen, but but my fear was that even with that equipment, I would get hurt, right?
Uh-huh.
But you find out you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've learned how to use the stuff and do the things right, it's not a problem.
Well,
but I had to face that head on, do it, trembling the entire time, and then what? It was pretty easy to do after that.
And
sometimes getting over that first try is what you need.
And that's kind of what I was discovering, is that try something small. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a swing for the fence, grand slam home run. Just something small. Try something, experiment a little, and watch what happens.
Right.
All right. So that was one thing. Another thing is to stop the negative self-talk.
Yes.
I cannot tell you how many times I have talked myself out of doing something with negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is that can almost be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes. I think negativity is just, negative thought. You see all these things out there about, think positive and send positive vibes my way and all that stuff. Now, I'm a Christian and I believe in prayer and all that stuff. I don't necessarily believe in positive vibes and all those things, but I do believe in being around positive people, and just in general speaking positively and thinking positively. It's just a matter of, it's a mindset, right?
Sure.
Like you want to not think of yourself negatively or have a negative position about what the thing is you're going to do, because it's probably not going to end up well.
And that's why I felt this suggestion, this idea resonated. The idea to try small, but talk positively to yourself. You're right. Putting yourself in a position where you've got people around you.
Yes.
It's amazing how energy vampires can literally suck your desire to try.
Yes.
And it feeds that idea of, well, no, you can't.
Yeah.
And I remember my parents telling me all the time, couldn't do anything.
Yep.
And it was kind of like, well, it took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I found a way to conquer that, starting with, well, we'll try something small.
Yeah.
We'll do a little something. And I did find that I was most of it didn't happen until I got into college.
Mm-hmm.
That the idea of having a little self-confidence. And I thought, well, shoot, nobody here to hide behind. And so let's go ahead and give it a try. So I experimented a little bit, and, I had a little success. So
yeah. It's a matter of, in some instances, of just surrounding yourself with people you want to be like. I have a poster. I have a poster in my classroom that says that.
Mm-hmm.
Surround yourself with who you want to be like. Any of the most successful people in the world will tell you that. You've got to surround yourself with the right people, and that's just really important, that you get some kind of affirmation, positivity, people who encourage you. Get away from people who are negative.
And I actually,
including yourself, right? Get rid of the negativity in yourself.
Well,
you can do it.
That was what I wound up doing. I had my best friend growing up, and he was always a certain kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to college, and well, he wasn't there. And so it's kind of like, well, I wanted to kind of be like that.
Yeah.
Be a little more gregarious, a little more outgoing. And so I started, and well, I guess it's his fault that I'm allowed obnoxious Joel today. But again, I got away from the self-doubt.
Right.
So
I years ago, I went and got a motorcycle license. And
really, I did not know that about you.
Yeah, I love motorcycles. They're fun. they're dangerous, but mostly because of the other people.
Okay.
And, one of the things about riding a motorcycle is, it'll actually stay up and go straight, like as long as you have power. You don't have to do anything. You just sit on it and it'll just go straight. And, but the thing about it is, and the instructors would always tell you, if you turn your head, that's where you're going.
Oh, very interesting.
So you'll always go where you're looking. So, if you start looking to the side too much, you're probably going to head left or right, whichever direction you happen to be looking. And that can be very dangerous, right? So, but as I think about the negativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're focused on the negative,
mm-hmm.
then things aren't going to go well. If you focus more on the positive, then that's kind of where you're going to head, right? Towards solutions and positivity and getting things accomplished.
Well, that makes sense. Well, in my inquiry or research into this, something else that popped up, and I have heard this so many times, and I will say from my own personal experience, it is as absolutely true, and that is exercise. And exercise can be anything. It doesn't mean going to the gym.
Sure.
For me, it's mostly walking the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I probably benefit from riding that Peloton I paid a lot of money for, but I like to walk. It gets me outside. I enjoy the fresh air. Some of the other stuff, you can dance, even if it's just a little chair dancing.
Sure.
Or, when you're getting dressed in the morning and you got your, the tunes are going, doing a little, dancing where nobody else can see. But anything that gets you up and moving
mm-hmm.
can generate a lot of positives. The endorphins that, can make you feel a little bit happier, can allow you to get better sleep.
Sure.
And all of these contribute then to your positive mood, your
mm-hmm.
positive attitude, and helps, challenge that self-doubt.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really good. And it's amazing when you start asking a lot of the kids that are feeling down, feeling depressed, feeling all the negative emotions.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do? When you go home, what do you do? Well, I go home and I play on my video or my phone, or I play my video games, or I play,
right.
You sit and do something lethargic, watch TV.
Everybody has strong thumbs, right? Because they've been texting. But yeah, I mean, kids these days, and that's a phrase I probably thought I would never use. But now that I'm old enough, I can say kids these days mostly don't play outside.
No.
They don't go outside. They don't run. They don't do a lot of things. Now, we live in an area that has lots of athletics. So there are a lot of students that do that,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of kids that do that, but there's also a lot that don't.
Sure.
And some of the ones that don't are the ones that are showing up, late in the morning because
mm-hmm.
they overslept, or,
mm-hmm.
They're just not feeling good today, or, whatever. And I just happened to notice that. There's no empirical data here, right? It's just something that we notice. And health, right? Your health
mm-hmm.
totally affects your whole everything about your life.
Yes.
I mean, I've since January, I've lost 46 pounds.
Wow. I'm going to change your name to Slim.
Yeah, well, I'm not there yet. I got a lot to go. But, losing 46 pounds, you sleep better, you feel better, you feel more positive. I go out, I'll do 3-mile walks, and
mm-hmm.
what used to be a real chore to do
mm-hmm.
is now a breeze. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels good. You feel energized afterwards. I mean, you got to get over that first hump though, right? Of doing that. And for years I felt like that negative thought, I will never lose this weight.
Oh, sure.
It'll never happen.
I felt that way many times.
My attitude changed, and now I've lost a lot of weight,
mm-hmm.
and it feels great. But that has made me feel better about other things in my life.
And that starts with you tried something new.
Yeah.
You tried something different. And so that makes a lot of difference. And when we were talking just a little bit ago about, or moments ago, about your that negative self-talk, well, tying in with that is working on your communication skills, your ability to talk and engage with people around you. And so I think that that's something that and that was me. I had no social skills.
Sure.
I had to know you before I'd really begin to open up. Well, how do you get to...
That's a Pandora's box, right?
Yes.
A paradox or something, right?
Sure.
How do you get to know somebody if you won't talk to them?
And one of the things that I was when I was looking into your social skills is your body language. Your body language can either invite or discourage people wanting to talk to you.
Sure.
And so when you're feeling these levels of inadequacy, these levels of anxiety, this idea, well, I can't do it, your fear factor can be put to ease by your own body language, by how you come across to others.
Well, there's also, people are drawn to people that are more positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to push away from people that are negative for good reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've already talked about don't surround yourself with negative people.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're the negative one, it's going to be hard to get around people who are going to be positive.
And it comes with practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little here. I mean, none of this can happen overnight, but it requires a little bit of effort. And it's amazing how a little piece of success can lead to another success and another success. And basically just be patient with yourself, but it will happen. It can change when you want to change.
Yeah, I mean, as humans, we definitely, once we have success in one thing, we will definitely feel like we can achieve in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to tackle other things, and they may be completely unrelated, right?
Right.
But I mean, I go back to that book I've read, right? The Atomic Habits.
Oh,
right?
sure.
If you just get up in the morning and be successful at making your bed, then you'll automatically start to feel like you've had a successful day so far. And, you'll do something else that's small and successful. And you keep doing those things. And before you know it, you've had 100 things that you did that were successful that day. And you make those habits and you repeat them. And then, you start doing more and more things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a matter of thinking positively about it.
Well, and that brings me to, and I guess it's because I'm nearly done with my work to become a professional counselor. But at the end of the day, it's okay to get help, to ask for, find you a therapist, find you somebody you can talk to help guide you and work you through the whole idea of how to address your feelings of insecurity and overcome it. Because it is easy. No, it's not easy. It is possible to overcome these feelings of insecurity. And if you're not sure how to get started or the path to take, find you a therapist.
I think it's not only okay. I think it's actually kind of a necessity. Most people don't overcome this stuff on their own, right? It's hard to be a negative thinking person and then suddenly overcome it all. You have to talk to somebody else. You have to work those things out in talk and verbally and thinking and hearing yourself and hearing another person's suggestions. So, I mean, I'm not sure that it's just okay, right? It's actually kind of a necessity for you to speak to another person, and professional counselors are, well trained in that.
It is, and I know I'm biased, but my experiences with mental health, both on the receiving end and on the giving end, I am a true believer that you got to have people to talk to, people who can help you, that you're willing to listen to, that can provide you the right kind of advice and suggestions to allow you to motivate yourself to try.
Absolutely. And I love that, today, in this time, right, it's widely accepted to go speak to a counselor. When I was a kid, I went to see a psychiatrist.
Okay.
And that was not, it was they were head shrinks and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but now, today there's counselors that are at that level. They're not quite the psychiatry level, but they're, they've got a lot of all that training, and they can help, and they're easily accessible, right?
Yes.
I mean, they're in your community, they're online, they're all over the place, and it's just really accessible and acceptable, and a lot of insurances even cover it. So
yes.
I think it's wonderful that that's available, and I think that more people should take advantage of it.
Well, both personally and professionally, I hope so.
Yeah, well, sure.
But in helping people feel better about themselves, it's just, you're right. It's a trickle down. How do I want to say this? It's a trickle down. I don't want to say theory, but when you start feeling better in one area, it encourages you to try to feel better in another area and another, and it just kind of snowballs, and it helps you feel better to tackle other issues. And so when life kicks you square in the stomach, well, you feel a little bit better prepared. Yeah, you're going to stagger from it,
sure,
but you feel a little more confident that you can tackle it. And it may take a little while, may take more work and effort, but you feel confident enough that you're willing to try.
Yeah.
Well, I just looked at the time. Holy crud. This was a fast.
It was.
I mean, we went through this quick. I was afraid this wasn't going to take very long and I was going to have to drag it out. But anyway, thanks for letting me dive into this.
I'm glad we tackled it. I was a little nervous about it to begin with. But, thanks to your professional counseling capabilities, we've gotten through it.
So. Well, very good, very good. Well, next time I'll pull out the couch.
All right.
Well, all right, then until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See ya.
Bye-bye.